You see the headlines, right? Missiles streaking across the sky over the Gulf, giant tankers grinding to a halt in the Strait of Hormuz. It feels like West Asia is constantly on a knife's edge. And on the surface, sure, it's a story about explosions and breaking news. But behind all that smoke, there's a much deeper, much older strategic conflict playing out. So let's break down what's really going on. Behind all that noise, you've got three key capitals, each with its own incredibly complex calculations, its own deep-seated fears, and its own vision for what the future of the region should look like. We're talking about Washington, Tel Aviv, and of course, Riyadh. And while these three don't always see eye to eye on everything, they share one common target. And more than that, they share one overwhelming fear, that if Iran isn't stopped right now, the entire balance of power in West Asia could shift for good. And that target? It's Tehran. Now look, this whole situation didn't just pop up overnight. Wars almost never do. This was built layer by layer over decades. It started way back with the 1979 revolution. Then came the proxy wars, these indirect conflicts fought through local allies, a quiet but intense arms race, and this growing, nagging fear over its nuclear program. Each one of these events just added another brick to the wall of distrust. So here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to dive into the perspective of each of these three capitals. We'll explore Tel Aviv's absolute nightmare scenario, what Washington considers its non-negotiable red lines, and the shadow game Riyadh is playing. Then, we'll tie it all together to show you how they form this incredibly volatile triangle of fire. Okay, first stop, Tel Aviv. For Israel, the threat coming from Iran isn't some far-off abstract idea. For them, it is seen as truly existential. When you look at how Israeli strategists think, it really boils down to three absolute red lines. First, and this is the big one, a nuclear-armed Iran. That, for them, changes absolutely everything. Second, the spread of precision-guided missiles on multiple borders, which could just overwhelm their defenses. And third, the fear of being completely surrounded by a network of Iranian-backed proxy groups. And here's what you've got to understand. When leaders in Tehran call for an end to the Zionist regime, leaders in Israel don't just hear political talk. They hear a promise. They see Iran arming groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon to the teeth with missiles and trying to build a land bridge through Syria that leads right to their northern border. For them, the clock is ticking, and that window to act, it feels like it's shrinking every single day. All right, let's hop over to Washington, D.C. Now, the U.S. and Iran haven't fought a direct, declared war in decades, but don't let that fool you. They've been locked in this kind of shadow conflict all across the region, in Iraq, in Syria, and especially in those critical shipping lanes in the Gulf. For the folks in the White House and the Pentagon, they're basically juggling four massive concerns. A nuclear breakout by Iran, which could kick off a terrifying arms race across the entire region. The safety of the world's oil and gas routes, because believe me, if the Strait of Hormuz closes, the entire global economy feels that pain. Then there's the security of their key allies, like Israel and the Gulf states. And finally, something a little more abstract, the credibility of American power itself. And this right here gets to the heart of the pressure cooker Washington is in. Their allies all over the region are constantly sending the same message, loud and clear. If you guys back down, you create a vacuum, and Tehran will rush right in to fill it. So every U.S. president, it doesn't matter which party, feels this immense pressure to demonstrate that American power is still real. But there's a third major player in this game, one that often operates from the shadows, Saudi Arabia. And for Riyadh, man, this is about everything. It's a deep, complex rivalry for who gets to be the leader of the entire Muslim world. At its core, this rivalry is both strategic and, well, religious. Saudi Arabia sees itself as the protector of Sunni Islam and its holiest sites. Iran, on the other hand, positions itself as the leader of a revolutionary Shia movement that stretches all the way from Tehran to Beirut. And that fundamental difference in how they see the world, it's like gasoline on a fire for conflicts all over the region. I mean, we've seen this rivalry play out directly in brutal proxy wars, especially in Yemen. And while Riyadh might talk publicly about cooling things down, privately, behind closed doors, Gulf officials have been telling Washington for years that a soft approach to Tehran is just seen as weakness and a green light for more aggression. Okay, so we've got the pieces of the puzzle now, right? Tel Aviv's fear of being surrounded, Washington's need to keep global order, and Riyadh's intense rivalry for dominance. So now let's put them all together and see how these different fears lock into place, creating this dangerous, self-reinforcing logic for escalation. So when you line them up, a very clear, if very dangerous, logic takes shape. From Tel Aviv's point of view, it's simple. We have to strike now to prevent a much worse war later. Washington feels it has to act to keep its allies calm and protect the global economy. And Riyadh is pushing for a hard line to protect its own cities and its influence in the region. You see how that works? Each logic reinforces the others, making what should be unthinkable, military action, suddenly seem possible. But here's the thing about a conflict this tangled. Fear isn't a one-way street. No one has a monopoly on it. Every single one of these capitals is telling itself a story where they are the ones defending themselves, where they are the victims. And that just fuels this vicious cycle, where every strike from one side confirms the other side's worst fears, and everyone genuinely believes they're the ones just trying to survive. And that brings us to the final and, frankly, the most unsettling question. We always focus so much on why wars start, but maybe the more important question is this. After all the missiles have flown and all the dust has settled, what kind of region is going to be left? What will that new map even look like?